If you write anything on your computer, you need to get Grammarly.
I write pretty much all day.
Nice music. We'll be starting the next section on time, right?
Yeah, as long as the people come, but the thing is, the next session, people from India are going to present.
Mine is the first one, and I have a flight to catch today.
Oh, yours is the first one? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then we should
So
go.
I'm the first one, and if it's going to start late, is there any way I can finish my Q&A and then take off?
Yeah.
Because I have a flight to catch.
Yeah.
I have to leave here at 6:30. I can't.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, you should talk to
Meera?
Yeah, Meera also. Yeah, Meera also. She is also on moderating. So
Yeah.
Sounds trying to see folks from India haven't woken up yet or something. They're not online
You
yet.
have to wake up. Okay, that's true. It's a Google Hangout. Yeah, I saw.
Yeah, and I connected with them on Skype also. And I'm not seeing them online. Hopefully they'll come up.
5:30, no? So 5:30 should be. Yeah.
Our 5:30 in 8 minutes.
Yeah, in 8 minutes. They should have.
Yeah, they should have
Been
be
there.
online and
But
joining.
you know, once you live in India for a while, I'm living there now. You get used to coming there at maybe a minute before. Here we always do things
Really,
yeah,
to get
we're
prepared.
concerned that everything should work. I hear you. You did very well in the morning.
Yeah, a lot of things did not work actually. Even Wi-Fi was so bad. I was not expecting that. Thought this is called Wi-Fi, it should work. So that worked.
But
And
it
Chrome
worked. I
control.
think people could communicate.
Yeah. Fine. That's why I have two laptops. This laptop created a lot of issues. Chrome started crashing, so I got another laptop and fixed. Last detention.
Yeah, you're handling all of this, so I can just imagine.
I connected with a few folks, had dry runs and everything. Hopefully they will join. They have nobody else online. So you flew from India for this conference?
I didn't fly in from India for this conference. I flew in from India because my daughter was volunteering.
Oh, okay.
So I have a school and a center in India.
Oh, okay.
So I was here for about a month and a half.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So just happened to be here. It's nice.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's nice to watch it grow.
Yeah.
We started Asha in 1994.
Wow.
The Seattle
Okay.
chapter.
Oh, okay.
It's 23 years now. It's just nice to see all new faces.
Yeah.
Except for some couple of people.
Yeah. So you used to be in Seattle and then moved back to India?
Yes.
Oh,
We started in 94 to 2007.
Hey, Rajesh, let me introduce Srini.
Hi.
He's our photographer.
Oh,
I mean, just okay. I'm a volunteer, not a pro photographer.
He's got his own studio.
No, come on.
All right. Okay, he'll be taking photographs and then come to comments and we can
Yeah.
all right. So, you're going to talk to the volunteers stuff,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Heading to the airport.
Yes, I'm
I'll
heading
fix
there
some more.
at 6:30.
Yes.
Good luck.
So, yeah, hopefully
I'll miss this because I'll be going off to get dinner ready.
You're doing all the hard work. You involved in a marathon, right?
No, not me.
Not you.
My knees don't let me run marathons.
I think I've seen your name.
You
You're
can
still
run,
running.
please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just helped out in a few more events and other things. So, take care.
Yeah.
So are you from here or you're visiting?
I'm visiting. Actually, when I started after Seattle, way
Yeah,
back
I
then,
remember that.
and now I just happen to be here for about a month and a half. And just in time for the conference, I guess.
That's wonderful. And where are you going back to?
Back to Bangalore.
Back?
Yeah.
Okay, give me a second. Vinay. Yes. Vinay was not as he used to lead the ETS program of visibility for awesome.
Yeah, seriously.
He doesn't want you coming back banging.
So Jayasri wants to leave by 6:30, so that we can do is get 2-3 speakers go through, then take questions for Jayasri, and then let her go.
Okay.
Because I think we'll go maybe 15 minutes
Beyond.
over is what.
Okay.
And we can skip me if needed, so that we don't stretch it too much.
Okay. I had 6 names and I didn't have yours.
So that's good. Yeah, Melly and Ravi both are there. So yeah, you have already 6.
Okay.
I'm here.
Srijan is there.
No, no.
No, I only was given 6 names.
Swati, Srijan, and Vijaya.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure it was not Seattle heavy. We already have you and we have Swati now. We put in Season and me now. It's like
Yeah, I only was given 6 names.
See, as a chapter, we have transition between different
Yeah. I mean, if we have time, definitely we'll.
Again, I will get chance to speak
literally there's a 5 minutes, so I just put them
How many minutes you are saying?
5 minutes.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's enough. That's the length around meeting actually 45. And then we have our comments. You know, it's a different yeah. Tomorrow is a short day. Okay. Around. Okay. Thank you for coming. Yeah. Because I mean, there's a lot of people who work behind the scenes. I'm seeing today.
Inside, please. Can y'all assemble inside, please? Can y'all come in? Bring your tea. coffee, samosas. Come inside.
Yes.
Okay, please settle down. If you don't want me to hear sleeping.
Camera here.
Or you can move it here. I won't hide it. You can keep it. I didn't realize that was the camera here.
Okay. Can everyone come in, please, with your snack and tea? Okay, whistles are not working. I'm going to start singing now. Exactly. No, if you don't come in, that's the risk.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, I'm gonna get started, and then I think Jayashree Ashok, I'm gonna invite Mrs. Jayashree Ashok first as a very experienced ASHA volunteer. I actually learned that she started the ASHA network. She also actually started the ASHA Seattle. So we're going to start with her. She has a flight to catch tonight. So she's going to leave at 6:30. We'll have her go first. And then hold your questions. Again, we'll circulate. If you don't have the cards, maybe around after a couple of speakers, we'll have the questions answered for Mrs. Jayashree before she leaves. So come on up, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're good.
Can
Yeah.
you name it?
Okay.
Okay, everyone. So I was just sharing with some of my friends that it was amazing to walk into a room full of people and not really recognize anyone other than Sandeep Pandey. So it's been an amazing journey for me personally, and Vinay kept saying, share from your heart. I think that's the best. So my husband Ashok and myself and Shiva Atriya, another volunteer, started ASHA in 1994 in Seattle. At that time, the Berkeley and Stanford chapters were active. I believe LA and us kind of started around the same time. When we started ASHA Seattle, I remember the three of us getting together and saying, let's do something for children in India. I had just joined Microsoft at that time. And my husband was already at Microsoft. And he said, are you nuts? You know, you're joining Microsoft, a software company, and you are planning to start a non-profit here. Do you know how much work that is? And I just said, yeah. So he said, okay, fine. He came along. And when we started, we said, okay, let's take up 2 schools and really support it. And there was something about Asha that drew us at that point, and Sandeep is not here, I wish he were here. But the one decision we took at that point was a turning point for, it turned out to be a personal transformation for both Ashok and me. We are back in India now, we've started our own school and we have a center as well. And it's been a long journey from Asha Seattle to where we are today. What happened was, we just decided that we will not just be a funding agency writing checks, but we get into a partnership where we're not just sitting and saying, because we're funding you, tell me this, get garlanded and leave. Which is what happens with many donors, right? They go there, they get garlanded, and they leave. So we said, no, we are going to go there and we're going to get personally involved. In the 2 schools, we just got 2 schools. Within a period of, we started Asha Seattle in 1994. When we left in 2007, there were at least 50 projects that we had taken up. And it just grew organically. It grew organically. In 1999, I quit my job because I was getting more satisfaction out of my work with Asha than out of my work. And from 1999 till I left in 2007, I've had the pleasure of working with so many volunteers. In a way, I was, a few of us were threading the whole thing together and just sharing the whole thing because that's what it takes. There was a time when it was 40 hours of work just to be able to hold the chapter and be able to mentor new volunteers, to be able to visit. So it turned out to be an unexpected growth. And in the process of Asha Seattle's growth, both Ashok and I grew a lot. I ended up growing personally in so many different areas, learned a lot of really good administrative skills, learned a lot about education. We started visiting projects, not just, we would actually go there and we started volunteering as well. I had quit, my husband took 6 months off, we went into one of our projects, Bhakti Trust, went into the village and built a school with them. The villagers and us built the school, the teachers came and stayed at home, and they came and trained. We used to make learning aids out of whatever was local there. And these possibilities exist for all of us. We don't need a lot of time. But what's important is not just some good that you're doing for India, but it's really a transformation for yourself. When you're with Asha, don't just look at the proposal, don't just look at fancy numbers, don't just look at, good fancy reports. Those are secondary. There are 2 important questions that I would really urge you all. One is really connect to the spirit of the project. The people who are doing the work, are they doing it because they believe in it? Are they doing it from a sense of larger purpose than just, money, name, fame? It's very important for us to connect with that. And the second part is, how are you as a volunteer going to transform in the process? Because make no mistake, when you go into the villages, when you go visit projects, you will change. So you have to be ready for that change. You have to be prepared that Asha will change you as much as you change anybody else. So socio-economic change is not just in the villages in India, it's in your life. It can lead into a lot of questioning of yourself. When we went back in 2007, and my husband still works at Microsoft, but all our money is used up in supporting a school. So it's just, it changed us completely. It changed us on how we lived. We became, as we traveled into the villages, in fact, I went with Arundhati into Orissa, Sandeep's wife Arundhati, and when we saw what was happening due to the mining there, it made us think of sustainable solutions. How can one live like that? It made us simplify our lives. It made us transform, our outlook, our goals in life. Today we have many friends who used to be with us, and they talk of midlife crisis, and we look and say, what is midlife crisis? You know, midlife crisis comes when it's a crisis with you not knowing yourself. But when we get into volunteer causes like ASHA, you really start understanding yourself. You really start looking, you start questioning your priorities in life. You bring life into a much more healthy balance. Then, of course, corporate success is one aspect of it. I know many of you work, right? That's one aspect of life. But that's not all of it. Your life becomes much more balanced. So, I know we've heard a lot of wonderful presentations on helping and evaluating projects and everything. So I really want to bring this up, make this about you, make it personal. When you see something, Gandhiji's words should guide all of us. Become the change you want to see in this world. If you believe in better education, prepare yourself for it. Read up on it, see what is there, go volunteer in schools. There is so much, there are a lot of questions on how can we increase ASHA India. Go back and actually work. Because one of the things that happens when we are sitting here is we ask a lot of intellectual questions. But when you're out there in the villages, you will find your questions are very global, but solutions are always local. What is right for that child cannot be debated sitting here. What is right for that child has to be carried out there. Like one can talk about, like say beautiful Montessori system of education, right? But that education has to be customized in the village for using local materials that are there. And that's a lot of creative opportunity for all of you. When you go back and work, you can become really creative on how can you think of good solutions and use it in a way that is right in the context that you're using it in. That's one aspect. Second part is be prepared to learn. You learn so much from villagers. You learn about their intuitive abilities. That they may not have studied so much, but they have a gut sense for people, which many of us lack. They have a gut sense for the natural herbs, that grow. They know what is poisonous, what is not, what to eat, what is not. Learn that from them. Just don't go there, sitting saying that I am giving you. No, it's giving and receiving go hand in hand. We go there and we learn as much from the people we are supporting, and they support us back. So just the barter is a little different. Money is just one aspect of life, right? You may be able to give money, but you will get back so much from your interactions. So I think that's it. I was given 5 minutes.
No, it's okay. This was super inspiring.
You can tell it comes from the heart. You can tell that she's not flashing the work or anything.
I mean, I'm so humbled with what you've done for us. So thank you. Just 5 minutes, very powerful. Giving it to others is giving it to yourself. And she made a couple of good points. Anybody who were in other brainstorms would realize that we sit here and ask a lot of intellectual questions. But getting to the school, working is extremely important. So thank you.
I want to give you a funny example.
Yeah.
I want to give a funny example. Somebody came and in our school, we give homeopathic care to all the low-income children and their parents. So somebody said, why do you choose homeopathy? So I just looked at them and said, because that's who we have. We have a homeopathic doctor. I'm not going to discuss homeopathy versus Ayurveda with you. In Seattle, we may sit there and say, why not allopathy? Why not homeopathy? Why not Ayurveda, right? That's because you're removed from it. But out there, it's who you have at that moment, and what is the best solution. I think that breaks the ego, really. We have to break our ego to learn. And please allow yours to break. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Well, I was asked to present a small memento to you. Please accept on our behalf.
I may be mistaken, you can correct me, but I think that is Mr. Ashok, right? No. Or somebody else? Sorry.
Ravi.
I thought he was looking.
Yeah, okay.
I thought he was very proud of
Swati or Ravi.
himself.
He's Ravi.
So maybe he woke up, I thought, in India and was listening to you. So, any questions for her? Because I think we may run out of time. So if anybody has a question,
Maybe one or two max before I introduce another speaker. So two, okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, here.
Yeah, a little bit further. Sorry.
Sorry, I hope I was standing in the right.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
were, yeah.
So how do we know more about your project and how do we contact you if we want to know more?
Okay, that I'll give you.
Yeah.
But let me keep it for, yeah, I have a brochure you can, we have a website and a brochure you can come back.
Okay, perfect. Second question.
I was wondering, since you've done this grassroots level work in schools, what is your perspective now on trying to do work with the government to do very large scale change versus your effort in sort of the grassroots?
See, those who feel inclined to work with the government can. I've not reached that. Mine is in the area of, I've really looked at education a lot. And our school is very inspired by Sri Aurobindo and the mother. That is at the vision level. But our children study there. So it's a mixed income. It's not only for poor children. What we've done is all the maids, the cooks, the gurkhas, all their children in our neighborhood come to our school. So we've not gone global because it takes a lot to create a school. It's taken all of me. I disappeared for 8 years, some people know, because I had to be there. I had to look at what was coming up and find solutions that are relevant. So it's taken that for our whole team, it's taken that long to build a team. So I have not engaged with the government or anything else. We just have to see, okay, our principle is very, first begin with yourself, begin with your family, begin with your community, and then go out. That's the model that we took. And also we have really tried to make sure that the work that we do is also kind to Mother Earth. So our school is very simple, peace with yourself, with your family, with your community, and Mother Earth. And that itself has been challenging enough for 8 years. So looking at everything else, if anyone is inspired, we're happy to help. And that's where we are at.
Great, thank you. Another round of applause, please. Have a safe flight back. Have a safe flight back, thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Chalam. And so we'll gather the questions now. Questions now. After the next 4 other speakers go, we can ask again. You have another, that speaker is working. Can you try?
No, it
Oh, you
doesn't.
can.
Oh, there it is.
Yes.
No.
You can use this. See if you can use that. Let me fix that.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Hello, it's me again. So I guess I was asked to comment on, first of all, I have a tough act to follow here. So, I'm not even going to try, right? So I'm going to take a very different tack to this question than the one that Jay takes. So for me, the challenge has always been simple. I'm fundamentally a lazy person. I'm fundamentally very attached to all my individual comforts. I don't think I could get to Bandejji's level. And I basically want to have my cake and eat it too, and I don't want time to touch prices. So these are the different issues that I'm trying to optimize for. So if I kind of flash back to 2007, and I was talking about the Asha conference back then, that's when I met the founder of Shikshana, this C.S. Ramamurthy. And he's like Jayashree, super passionate speaker, very inspiring. So he got me fired up almost immediately and said, yep, let me come and take a 4-month sabbatical. So that was how I got started on my Shikshana journey. So this was 2007. And then we said, okay, here's the problem that Shikshana's got. We are in 50 schools. We're trying to get to 150. This is a big deal. I don't know how well you're going to scale. I said, cool, hey, I know all about management. I'm an accountant, obviously. Of course, I know nothing, but that's a different issue. So, but at that point, that felt like an interesting problem to work on. Knowing that I wanted to be in the education space, but knowing that I also was sure that I didn't want to teach. So I think this is, and what I guess the overarching theme I'd like to kind of share with you is this notion that every point of the way I've been trying to balance my different priorities, right? So for me, this has not been a journey of pure passion. So there's been a journey of balancing my passion with balancing my material needs, my material wants, right? So at that time, it was that I have a job, I'm not interested in moving into this space full time, but at the same time, I want to take this seriously and I want to invest myself in it. So in this juncture, I had a low risk option to take 3 months off from work, or 4 months off from work in that case. And I took that opportunity, went and worked with Shiksha. I found the right opportunity, because I think that's also important, because different organizations will give you different levels of responsibility and different levels of input opportunity, right? And I think that what I often like telling people is, I love Asha because you can, with many organizations, it's easy enough to come in and get an opportunity to, lay out a few chairs. Someone talked about being a Java for some time, whatever it is, right? Those opportunities, organize an event, those are all great opportunities, but an opportunity to sit, talk about a project, go visit the project, understand how it works, make a decision, make a responsible decision on whether or not to move forward in it, that's a very rare opportunity. There are a very limited number of organizations that give us this opportunity. Asha is definitely one of them. I'm very proud of that. And I think when Asha gives you that exposure, now I think, how do you then take the next step? So for me, it was about taking that 3 months, 4 months sabbatical to go and see how this organization. So I came back with it thinking, wow, this is a great organization. I can tell you the month I got back, I was very depressed. I was like, what am I doing here? I need to be on the ground. That's it. This is so much fun. This is what life should be like. Except that I also knew that, from a financial perspective, from my other responsibilities perspective, it was just not going to work out, right? So that was just not the right time. And then I came back, got my MBA, worked in the UK for a while, started volunteering with Asha in London for a while. And then I came back to Seattle, and then on one fine day, I just happened to call up Prasanna. I said, it was the CEO of Shiksha, and said, hey, I've been trying to think about what I should do next. I want education to feature somewhere in this space. What should I do? And at that point, he said, hey, guess what? I've moved to the US for a while. There's an opportunity to lead the organization. Cool, let's do that. So he agreed 1 year I was going to go do that. So that's what I did. So I moved to India for a year. And that was the intention, at least, right? That I would move for a year. Started off on the journey. Journey got exciting. We got some of these government partnerships going. We got momentum in that, right? And as that happened, Prasanna said, hey, it looks like I need 1 more year. I said, I'm not so sure that's going to be workable. I can give you 6 months. So, and so then we said, okay, so for the next 6 months, that's what I did. So work on transition. And then we knew that we had to build out a leadership team. So started to build out a leadership team, which we knew we needed in order to scale. And as that happened, started training them up, transitioning some of these responsibilities to them. So that then I had a further 6 month period where I was transitioning off my day-to-day responsibility, which I did remotely. Which is just about to come to an end now. And now I'm going to switch my focus to new product development inside Shiksha, which basically then allows me to do more of that work remotely versus having to do that on the ground. And the good news is, I'm fundamentally a product manager at heart. And so knowing what my stakeholders on the ground need is the starting point for everything. So having that year and a half to understand all these different people, the students, what excites them, what doesn't, the parents, what are their motivations, and again, there's no uniformity or homogeneity here. Everyone seems to be doing their own thing, and I think managing all that complexity is a tough game. And the teachers, again, there's no pattern to this. Like, I think that it's easy enough to say some of them are not motivated, but the fact is, I think 80%, 90% of teachers can be motivated. I think we've got to start with that assumption. If you're not going to start with that assumption, I suggest you do something else, because then you're wasting your time, right? These are people who you have to work with. There are 1.6 million schools in India, right? And I felt super proud in 2007 when I helped the organization go from 50 to 150. Now we've got 3,000. Now we're talking to Karnataka about 50,000. All this feels awesome until you see the big number, 1.7, right? It's easy to get daunted by these numbers. It's easy to feel like it's all a drop in the ocean. But I think you have to figure out which part of these various problems you want to solve, right? What do you want to be a part of? How can you be a legitimate part of it? And I would strongly advise that you look for ways. There are many opportunities for you to de-risk your personal time and financial investments here. I think that's got to be my fundamental message, right? So I know that a lot of you want to have that big impact on the ground. My point is, don't wait till you made your mega bucks, right? That's an issue, right? Because many of us are doing that, right? Many of us are waiting to make that big financial pot before we're ready to make this jump, right? Or find some other security before we're ready to make this jump. And my point is, instead of putting it off all the way, consider ways in which you could make legitimate, serious, concerted, systematic efforts today, right? Or in the next week or the next month, right? And I think those opportunities exist, and I think that's what I want to highlight more than anything else, right? And I think certainly, I think Shikshan has done some of these opportunities as well, so feel free to reach out to me if you're interested.
Great, thank you. Okay, have the questions ready. If we have time at the end, we'll definitely go back to the speakers and ask them. We have 4 other speakers, and they're all going to be online. Can you hear us? I'm gonna request Swati to start first. Swati, can you hear me?
Oh, hang on. Loud and clear.
Perfect. Okay, so we can hear you as well. Take it away. We can see you wave. Take it away. You can start. Can you hear us?
Okay.
Yeah, please
Yeah.
go ahead and start. Yeah.
Okay. So, in short, what I am doing today and how I get there, a big credit goes to Asha. I came to Seattle as a grad student, and I guess my years at University of Washington helped me understand that my heart is in teaching and not in research. And I joined Asha pretty much within a year, and that's where most of my life was concentrated when I was in Seattle. I always wanted to connect to the greater India that you don't necessarily get to see growing up in a urban metro society. So Asha gave me that opportunity to go to the villages and see the Bharat, and that was very, very valuable. Also, it was very important that I could connect to what education is, and also that one size doesn't fit all. I think it was during our times that the project types that you see now, that got done. The second part, so obviously Asha helped us grow a lot. That goes without saying. Second part is what I still find very unique about Asha is that we are a flat organization. That we really practice democracy, and yes, sometimes that makes us slow to response because we have to have a majority agreeing to do it the way that in a certain way, but it also helps to understand how do you work as a team, how do you work when one person is not taking all the decision and you just follow orders, but you decide to choose and act upon it. So one of the things that I saw during my Asha days, which is around 2001 to 2002, 2008, I would say, is that newer volunteers will take initiative, and as long as it was within Asha's charter, there was hardly any red tape, and they will carry it forward, and create a new initiative. So that was really, really awesome. It didn't mean that, oh, you are a newbie, you have to wait and then you can do something. At the same time, Asha also was very much, and still is, very much about responsibility. It is an organization that doesn't have many power structures. In fact, regardless of how many years you are in Asha or not, you get some role if you are ready to handle the responsibility. So that's kind of like the Bhishma character in Mahabharata, lot of responsibility, no power. And somehow Bhishma used to be my favorite character as a child. So Asha kind of fitted that part very well. So as part of Asha Seattle, you know, I got to know many projects, grew and all of that. But somehow, I guess I always wanted to come back and work more closely. So at some point when I came back to India, I kind of went across the table on the other side. So I joined an organization which I found out through Asha Connect. So, and then it so happened that that organization also got funded through Asha. So, you know, at one point my salary was coming from Asha. And then I got an opportunity to join Azim Premji University, and that's where I am. And again, I switched table and I was asked to become an Asha volunteer again. In a way, right now, I find my work very fulfilling because instead of supporting education, supporting underprivileged children, supporting the work, I'm in doing it right now. So that part is there. So in some ways, some of us outgrow Asha a bit. But at the same time, now that I talk to you, it's almost like, you know, going back to your alumni and presenting there. Because honestly, I don't know how much I grew in UW. I think most of my growth during my Seattle days happened in Asha Seattle. So what I would say is, and I will echo what Jayashree said, it's not just about us helping somebody else, but it's about how that changes us, that brings more meaning to us. And one of the things which I'm going to encourage all of you to do, if you haven't done it already, is please go and do site visits. I see a trend now, and I can probably understand that it's unavoidable, blah, 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 that, you know, site visits are done by somebody else, often someone who is not even an Asha volunteer, okay? And I'm not very comfortable with this idea. Not because of the level of rigor we bring in, whether it is done well or not, but it's more like as volunteers, you are losing out. It does take effort to, you know, when you are in India, to take time out and go and visit some project. But let me tell you, it's so worth it. Being in Asha is a privilege that you all have. Take it forward. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Swati. Can you hear us clap for you?
Yes.
Can you see us? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll go to the next one. If you can stay on the call, I think Melly needs to drop off. So maybe we'll hear from Melly, and then we'll take questions later for all the speakers. So,
hi, can you hear me?
Just 1 second.
I just wanted to say we didn't really do introductions to these speakers, but to just give some perspective, Swati is currently on the project team, and all three of the next speakers are ex-presidents who are still involved with ASHA or are pursuing other interests.
Yeah, so Millie, yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Go forward.
So hi everyone. It's been a while since I've been at a Kasha conference, so it's interesting. I'm happy to join, even if remotely. So I just thought I'll give a quick kind of summary of my journey in Asha, and some things I agree with Swati. Hi Swati, by the way. Some things I have a slightly different point of view. So I joined Asha. I came across Asha when I was visiting. I was very new in the United States, and I was visiting a friend at the University of California in Berkeley, and in their house was an Asha meeting that evening. I attended the meeting, and at that time, I think I was only 2 or 3 months old in the US. So I got very excited about the concept. At that I said, oh, $1 is so much rupees, and we can do so much good. And I'd just come to the US, so I felt that things could be different. I mean, it doesn't have to be the way it is in India. You can have a different kind of system, a different education system, a different social systems. I got very excited, and I said, oh, this is great. I want to get into this, and this is so much fun, and you meet so much fun people. In school in Baltimore at the time, I went back to Baltimore, very quickly did my first fundraiser, which was, I was slaving over a stove for several hours to make vadais, and I sold it at a local food event. I made $130 and was very pleased with myself. After Asha saying, oh, this is great. And then I moved from there to Indiana, West Lafayette, then moved to Boston, got really seriously involved when I was in Boston with the Boston chapter, met lots of great people. That's one of the things I think Asha has really given me. You meet really interesting and committed people from all walks of life. So met lots of great people. Began to take on more and more different roles, project coordinator, fundraising coordinator, became involved in Asha White. Served as Asha president for one term, and that actually I think during the time I was Asha president was when we had Asha 10, and I still remember the passion with which 11 volunteers from one chapter, from the Boston chapter. We all flew from Boston to Berkeley. The conference was in Berkeley to participate in the conference. I think there were like 170 people in the conference. We had Sainath come and speak, and we all were like stood up and clapped. I mean, there was such an emotional connection to what we consider the cause. And I think at the same conference we changed. I think before that, our tagline was basic education in India or something. And then we had a session, we had multiple sessions. Because we were 170 people, how do you take a democratic decision? We divided the group into like 6 or 7 groups, and each room voted on different options, and we combined all the votes. And that's when we had the tremendous change, at that time what felt like a tremendous change of changing the mission to change through education to underprivileged children in India. I think that's what it says now. So that was like a major shift, and that represented a little bit the tension between looking at education by itself and looking at education for socioeconomic change. And I was firmly in the camp of looking at education for socioeconomic change, because it doesn't automatically guarantee that you can have change. So that was really interesting to me. That was also the period when we put the basics of the ARC in place and gave each chapter a unit or a vote, so consider each chapter as a unit and all of that. And I just want to say one more point is all of us at that time, we lived and breathed Asha. Like all my friends pretty much were from Asha at that time. All my social activities were around Asha. On the weekends, I would be spending 3 days in Asha. So, and we did it out of a great sense of fun, of camaraderie, and a feeling that united we can change things in India. That hope was so much in us, and we'd have all of these PowerPoint materials where we would say, yeah, Asha means hope for children in India, and also hope that we can change India, and hope that we can bring change amongst ourselves as well. So that was it. I still look on that period of my life with great fondness. The president term was over. I began to look more closely at projects, and I've always been more inclined on the project side of things. I started off with excitement and fundraising, but then I got very quickly into projects. It's fulfilling in great many ways. as Swati correctly pointed out. And I would also urge everyone to do a site visit, but I'll come back to that later. So I began to get more interested in, more and more involved with projects, and began withdrawing from all kinds of ASHA admin work. And then I began to really, I would say, grapple with the challenges of education and the abilities and limitations of education when it comes to creating social change. I came to recognize that in some cases it's just not enough. There are too many factors, and just providing an education is not enough. I began stewarding projects, different kinds of projects, because I wanted to understand different kinds of issues in India. I stewarded a project, an Asha India project in Nagpur, in Uttar Pradesh, where the village has and still has a tradition of prostitution. All the women going to becoming sex workers, and the men live off their income. Really is really putting a lot of effort into thinking that, okay, we got to change the situation. It's such a difficult situation for the women and girls. And finally, Asha had to withdraw from the village. We no longer have a project in the village. And then I began focusing on two things after looking at many different projects. Two things that I was always passionate about. One is education in government schools. Schools are the most important thing today that we have to really try and reform. For one thing, more than 70% of India's children go to government schools. In rural areas, the figure is 94%. Government schools are the only option. Second, there is no developed country in the world that has come to the state it is in without a strong public education system. Everyone from the United States, Canada, Japan, South Korea, European countries, no one is at the stage they are today without a strong public education system. I think privatization is a serious problem confronting India today when it comes to education. So I began focusing more on government schools, and the other thing I wanted to focus on was with the community. So a lot of our projects, what happens is we find really good people who tend to be like us, like us, I mean, they're middle class. They are conducting a project in a slum or in a village, or they have decided to move to a village and live there and build a school or run a project. That's the one set of projects, and we have great projects. The projects that interest me are really working with the people who are from the community, because they have an understanding, they have a perspective, I would say. They have a perspective which is different from ours. And I'm not saying one perspective is more important than another to understand, but that is an important perspective to understand of the community members. So like a lot of Asha India projects are like that actually. These are people from that village who are running projects. So similarly in Madurai, I happened to come across some people, community youth who are working in the slum in Madurai, and we have done we worked on some things with them. I also began to work on projects where I knew the language and where I could visit by, let's say, an overnight journey travel when I visited India. And again, going back to Swati's point, I cannot stress how important it is to for me, it's great fun, and because you just learn so much, it's really a nice feeling to just spend time with the children and spend time with projects, and it's really important to know the language. When I was working with the Nagpur village in Uttar Pradesh, I always work with an interpreter because I don't know Hindi, and I had to work through translations, and that was like you miss half the things, and it was a major pain. So now I only focus on projects where it's either in Karnataka or Tamil Nadu because I speak Kannada or Tamil. I went through a large amount of personal frustrations, I would say, in that period, in the last 2 years also, because I began, like I said, recognize the limitations of education, and especially when it comes to bringing about social change. We could not do anything in Nagpur where we effectively failed. And in other places also, just to take one example of girls' education, even now in most places, who finish SSLC nowadays in rural areas, but after +1, +2 PUC, they get married. And it is not easy for them to really pursue career options. And you would have seen this in your projects as well. And I really began to question in this particular example, what is, I'm not able to change the marriage age. We have done that in some projects, but then you have to control some other factors. Just funding the school is not enough. And then the one answer is, what's the point of education is they might help their children get educated further. But then the question is, well, do I want to wait that long? I was always, I want to bring about change in one generation, and I cannot wait for 2 generations. But then there are some things that you cannot help, and I really don't have an answer to this question. So what happens? Girls get married, girls don't have financial independence, they're not able to go to work. And there are many issues around that. I'm just giving this one example. Same thing with government school improvement also. I said, oh, great, we're going to just work with government schools and everybody will be very happy. I've been trying to do this in 2000, and there are many projects which have not worked successfully. I'm working with a couple of projects where we seem to have some success and some traction. But it was a personally frustrating time for me to understand that Asha's goals, while great, when I was focused in the US, on the US side of things, it is kind of naive, and one has to, there are many different issues that one has to look at. All of that being said, and then the second frustrating, and I think going beyond my time, I'll try to wrap up quickly. The second slightly frustrating thing for me was that I think Asha does not have a space for volunteers who have been there for a long time and who want to address these types of issues. And I think it's partly because we're so flat. I differ with Swati a little bit. I think the flatness does hurt us a little bit at some point. Like when I say I want to learn, I am doing these types of things, I want to discuss with people. There aren't spaces to make use of experiences of people like me or Swati, and there aren't experiences for me to learn as a person. So I basically stopped growing as an education person. I've grown outside after that, but within Asha, there's only so much I could do. We don't have things like an advisory council, or we really don't have space for older volunteers. And you would see most of us who are on this call, who have been here for a long time, participating today, right? We are not coming to the conferences. I do go to the meetings because I have an interest in the projects and I continue to work with. But there is no space for us. It's no longer interesting for me to look at an agenda and feel, okay, I'm getting something out of it. So I think that is an issue that and should address. And I think one way to address that is maybe have a new volunteer engagement kind of thing. This was a pet project of mine years ago, but I never followed up on it. There is a learning curve, right? So we constantly have new volunteers in Boston chapter who say, oh, we're really interested in working with projects. Can I steward a project? Stewarding a project is not just getting the financial report and uploading it on the website. It is building a deep connection with the project partner. It is all about how you really work with them, help them create the change that they want to create. And there are lots of levels to this thing. It's not just paper pushing, and that sometimes project stewardship seems to end up being just uploading documents, getting approvals, uploading checklists, uploading the same. That is not project stewardship. It really has to work with projects, and that is something that we really don't orient. Actually, I shouldn't say we really don't do that. We have a lot of materials now. I think over the last few years.
It's great to hear from you. I have the most envious job today to stop the speakers. So, pardon me. I just want to be respectful for the 2 other people who needs to speak. But it's super great to listen to you and also know.
I just want to say.
Yeah. If you could wrap up in 30 seconds. The more. Yeah. Thank you.
So let me wrap up 30 seconds. So one is, I feel looking at my chapter that Asha is kind of losing the connection with projects. I recommend that we don't do that, and I think we only retain volunteers when we have that connection with projects, because that's what motivates volunteers. Otherwise, paper pushing is less interesting. The last thing I wanted to say in 10 seconds is we should take a look at education today. There are a lot of things happening in India today. I mean, we should not think access is no longer really a problem. I don't see access as a problem. Quality is more of a problem, but India is unfortunately heading straight into the path of privatization. It's also heading straight into complete rote memorization. If they're memorizing and you're finishing SSLC, finishing PUC, it is not education. It is not going to help anyone, including the children or the country. So that is something that I really think we should focus on.
Okay. Thank you again, and I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Please do provide more inputs or feedback or wiki page or whomever you have contact with right now. So thank you so much. I know you need to drop off in 5-10 minutes, so thanks for joining. I'll hand over next to Rajiv, who's also on the call, and then following that would be Ravi. And we have about 10 minutes. So if you could please help with 5 minutes each, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. First of all, it's so good to see an ASHA conference having so many people. I know a few years back we had people in single digits. And hello, Sandeep Bhai, how are you? Yeah. So I think when we talk about the ASHA journey, it's more or less, you'll find a similar pattern for, a lot of people who have stuck around with ASHA for a very long time. One common thread that you will find is that people who have been with ASHA for a very long time, they have been active on the projects side of ASHA. There are a lot of different things that you can do on the fundraising side, on the web side, on the chapter management side, on the project side. But essentially what maintains a connection between a volunteer and ASHA is the projects. All other areas are really very important as well, but volunteers tend to get burnt out in the day-to-day rigor. What re-energizes them, what keeps them connected with the organization is the projects. Because trust me, when you go back to India, when you do a site visit, when you look at those kids, when you look at the grassroots problems, it is hard to disengage yourself from ASHA once when you hit that ground reality that is there at the grassroots level in India. So my journey pretty much has also been very similar to others. In fact, one of the first people that I've spoken to in the organization was Melly, and I look up to her as my mentor, and she was one of the first persons in ASHA that I used to interact a lot. When I wanted to talk about projects, I used to give her a call weird times, 9:30, 10 o'clock in the night, and I would, bug her for about a couple of hours just talking about projects, brainstorming all kinds of ideas and then whatnot. So the one thing that really facilitated my own personal growth, and this is something I think Jayashree probably also mentioned and Melly also alluded to. ASHA is not about a poor kid halfway across the globe. That's only one half of the story. The other half really is about our own personal growth, and all the volunteers that who have been around for a very long time. When you talk to them, one thing again that they tell you is they have grown a lot by being in association with the project and being in association with ASHA as an organization. So the child part is only one half of the story. The other half of the story is the volunteers themselves. So I think we as an organization, we have to start talking in very real and tangible terms as to how a volunteer can grow and how, what exactly is a volunteer getting out of association. It's not the intangibles. You can actually come up with tangible benefits that volunteers are coming up with, and we have to focus on how we can improve those tangible benefits in a more streamlined fashion. The growth that I have had was basically I was with the Boston chapter for a good 7-8 years. I lived in Boston up until 2011, and I moved to California subsequently. And after I moved to California, I found a little bit more time on my schedule, so I started volunteering at a central level. I was on the projects team at that time. I think Ravi was the president at that time, and we really did a lot of, we tried to initiate a lot of different activities there in terms of focus groups, in terms of fellowships. I think fellowships was there for a very long time, though we tried to bring them through conference calls and whatnot. And the next term, I felt, I probably should, step up my involvement a little bit more. So I tried to step into the coordinator role at ASHA. And that was really a very transformative experience for myself. But all along this way, one thing that I constantly did was kept myself engaged with the projects. And I tried to do as many site visits as possible. And like Melly was mentioning, right, it's not enough to look at the quantitative side of the impact as to, whether there is accessibility to education or not. That's not a problem anymore. So I started looking at the quality of education side of things. And then what I realized was, when we talk about education, education for us, we think, putting a kid to school is actually going to get the job done. It doesn't. In fact, let me just throw one single statistic at you. I hope that probably should serve as enough of a challenge in the education space for us all to think about. By the year 2028, India is going to have roughly about 900 million people of working age, close to about 1 billion people, 2028 to 2030. And the traditional industry as we know it is only going to create roughly about 250 to 300 million jobs. So what does it mean for the other 600 million people? Are they going to find sustainable sources of livelihood? No one really knows the answer to that. But the one thing that can impact the other 600 million people, whether they can find sustainable source of livelihood or not, is the quality in education. And by education, I don't mean schooling. In fact, I think beyond basic literacy and numeracy, there is very little value that the schooling is actually adding to a child. It is the creative thinking skills. It is the analogical thinking skills. It's the analytical thinking skills, being able to relate what you learned in school to what happens in the real world. These are all specific skills that need to be inculcated for over a period of time, 10 to 15 years, for them to be able to find their own source of livelihood. And there are various projects that are proving this by creating, micro industries where there is no relation to the formal industry per se, but people are able to find sustainable source of livelihood just by their own creative thinking skills. So I think when we talk about education from a quality perspective, we have to start thinking along what can we do in our own projects to get children to that level where we can be sure that they're not going to be they're not going to be a part of the formal traditional industry, and we have to think of what can be done to make sure they have that source of livelihood. So these are all the things that I started understanding once when I was visiting projects, when I was talking to project partners doing fantastic work in different sections of the education sector. And I finally decided I need to move back to India and start doing something myself in the education space. And right now I'm in the process of starting up an education-based organization myself by the name Caring with Color. And what we are trying to do is specifically address this problem. How can we bring about a more holistic learning environment in a classroom where we are not focused on the subject content, which is probably important but really not that important, or marks really per se. And these are all very well established problems, and the solutions are already there. There's nothing to really reinvent. If you go back to National Curriculum Framework 2005, it really talks about every single problem in the education space that we would ever want to know. And one thing that they say is try to bring about a constructivist learning environment in a classroom to really impact the creative thinking abilities of the children. And what we are trying to do in our own little way is how can we come up with that really more holistic learning environment and a more constructivist learning environment in a government school classroom. We really wanted to focus on the government schools because just like Melly said, 75% of the children in India still go to government school. And given all the constraints with the government administration and the government school classroom poses, we wanted to come up with a process, a constructivist process that works in a government school classroom. So hopefully we'll be able to solve that riddle and make an impact in our own little way. But at the end of the day, whatever I'm talking about, nothing of this would have been possible had it not been, had there not been a platform like ASHA to begin with. It's that close connection to the grassroots that ASHA provides that truly impacts a volunteer, and I cannot think of any other platform where volunteers can get involved at such a deep level and travel their own journey of self-transformation. So with that, I'll stop there and I'll let you take over again. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ravi. Thank you so much. We'll pass we'll pass it on to Ravi now. Thanks.
Hello guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sandeep, namaste. Very nice to see you. I had the honor of hosting you several years ago in Dallas, and I still remember our little chat we had on the end. I don't know how to follow 5 veteran volunteers who have spoken. I don't know what to say. They've pretty much mentioned everything. It's nice to know Rajiv is thinking of starting the organization by himself. And hats off, Rajiv. To me, I started volunteering in 2003 when I was primarily interested in a cricket match. So I looked up any teams playing around in Dallas, and there was one tournament being organized by ASHA at the time. So I went there, and that was my hook, bait and catch. So I then grew interested in what ASHA was, and I started attending the meetings at the time. And slowly, it aligned with how I used to think, how to give back something to the society or help somebody. Then, as I got deeper and deeper into it, it really, I felt at home being with volunteers, like-minded volunteers, and in great minds to go to ASHA. I mean, that's so. As everybody has been saying, right, my personal connection with 2 projects, 2 site visits that I did. One was a project called Sarva Vidya Trust in Chennai, which brings in children, girl children, and gives them nursing skills and places them in houses and home nursing. And the second project was in Rajasthan. Actually, it's called Bal Ashram Trust, which is run by Bachpan Bachao Andolan, which is run by Kailash Satyarthi ji, who you might know as the Nobel Peace Awardee in 2014, I believe. Those 2 site visits really opened up, and until that point, it took me 8 to 9 years to do those site visits, but that was my real grounding. I mean, I came to realize it was an eye-opener for me, to truly see firsthand the issues faced by the project partners, the children, the communities, and so for me, as Melly and even Raju has mentioned, it was more of a personal growth. I got back more from ASHA than I ever thought I gave, whether time-wise or financially or whatever I gave. I think I got back more in terms of my personal growth. In the interest of time, I just wanted to, one of the pet projects that I had in my mind, but never really got to do it in various roles in ASHA, was the aspect of teacher training. This was discussed inside and out, and a lot of chapters, a lot of volunteers, but as an organization, we never really had a concrete plan on how to go about it. What does it take, as an organization, as a volunteer organization here in the US, what does it take to train the teachers in the government schools. I mean, listening to Rajiv looks like the problem of privatization and children, the schooling system becoming more and more privatized is more severe than than what I thought. So the aspect of teacher training, which also alludes to the quality of the education in schools or in general, that was my pet project that really I could never take off the ground. But that is something that I really wish Asha spends more time thinking about and figuring out ways on. There are already some projects that do that. I think there's one project in Mumbai and that I know of, and I'm sure there are many that I don't know of that are already addressing this issue. But as an organization, I really wish that we spend more time thinking about it. Was that Snake talking, or was it Uttara? Cut me. I know that we've run 7 minutes past the scheduled time, so feel free to cut me, because every little thing that all the speakers mentioned before me sort of applies to me too, in terms of my personal growth or how I got hooked to Asha, the cause, the mission to help, and in the same way that they've had their own experiences. So I can give it back to you.
Ravi, can you hear us?
Now I can.
Perfect. Okay. Did you? I think you completed, right? Because I thought. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Can you hear from him? I think can we hear for everybody, all the speakers, one more round. Thank you so much. I think literally 2 takeaways, right? One is do it for yourself, for your own personal satisfaction. I think all experienced volunteers or founders have said that you're growing more than you're helping others. So that's super critical. And then be directly connected to the project. So that will only give you energy not to pull back ever from Asha. So I think those 2 messages, I think it's all great from all of the 6 speakers who came on stage. So 6:40, please write your questions and give it to us. And if you want specific question for Jayashree or Chalan or Ravi, Rajiv, Swati, Nelly, you can write who you're asking the question for in your sheet. We'll take it, we'll promise, we'll send it to them, we'll collect the answers and post it to Vicky. That's our commitment. So first of all, one big round of applause for all of you today. We have tolerated the MC here. Couple of quick announcements. One announcement is tomorrow, if people are staying in the evening and if you want to tour, like local tours to visit, there's a signing sheet that you can sign up your interest, and some of the local volunteers are going to, volunteering to take you to some sightseeing locally. Second, the next is, just dinner, relaxation, so that you can then come back tomorrow energized. 2 ways to go. I think the dinner is going to be in a common place called Commons, right? Is it the right place? Commons, yeah, right? Commons. So most of them are actually, if you want to drive, ride, there are people who can take you. If you want a nice evening walk, it's just a 10-minute walk from here. So either options are available. We can help you at the desk with both directions and also help the ride if you come out, and then we'll see you tomorrow. Anything you want to add, Uttara?
Just a quick question. Just quick logistical issues. Please bring your name tag tomorrow. We only have the one for everyone. And 2, if you could haven't gotten a T-shirt yet, if you're an Asha volunteer, just pick up a T-shirt in your size so that we don't have to keep them out again tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for joining from India. Thank you.
Billy is saying hi to you. Okay, bye guys.
Bye, bye everybody.
Yeah, it's so much.